Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That was me.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So like I said, we're going to start in a seated pose today. Our meditation today, we're talking about the neural pathways in our brains that are just kind of there and we use them all the time, and then talking about how do we create new ones in our brains. And so we're going to do a couple of flows today that are like, we've done them several times before, and then we're going to switch to an alternate, which might feel a little bit different in our bodies. And so just that's kind of where we're going with today's flow, just so you all know. But to start, let's go ahead and find a comfortable seated position, thinking about elongating our spine and relaxing our shoulders down, and either softening your gaze or closing your eyes if you would like, and then just centering yourself in this moment. Some of us do that through breath. Some of us do that through the 5-4-3-2-1 model of keeping your eyes open, observing 5 things you see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. So if you would like to use that for these next few moments as you center, feel free to do that. And as you sit here, think about softening your tailbone down, engaging the core on the front side of those low abdominal muscles. For some of us, as we breathe, it's helpful to put a hand on your chest and a hand on your belly. For some of us, that's not helpful because it brings up other emotions and things. So do what is comfortable to you today. Just taking a nice deep breath. And then when you're ready, we're going to go ahead and start to place our hands on the mat in front of us. We have one foot in front of the other, and then we're going to start to slowly walk those hands forward. I was doing a little bit of research the other day, and I saw that if you do just about 5 to 10 minutes of warm-up, it increases the blood flow to the muscles by 75%. And so this is one of the reasons that we do these warm-ups. It's just because it reduces the risk of injury, but it also gets our muscles, the blood flowing to our muscles, so that way it can actually receive the stretches and the movements and the strengthening that we do. When you're ready, go ahead and walk those hands back towards your body. We're going to switch whichever foot is in front here. Again, sitting nice and tall, and then placing your hands on the mat in front of you, walking those hands forward as you lean forward. Taking a nice deep breath. And when you're ready, walking those hands back to center. We're going to extend our legs out to either side. Coming into seated open A. Again, placing your hands on the mat in front of you. Hey, come on in. Okay. And then slowly walking those hands forward. Again, only coming as far as feels comfortable to you. And if you need to find a little bit of movement in this pose, if you need to kind of rock from side to side, feel free to do that. Or if you need to kind of explore, coming down a little further and then releasing a little bit, feel free to do that too. And then walking those hands back to center, we're going to turn and face one leg and then come coming down, then forward over top of that leg. Taking some deep breaths, paying attention to what your breath is doing in your body. And then walking back to center, turning to face the other leg, and then leaning forward over top of that leg. Breathing deeply as you do so, holding the pose but not holding the breath. And then walking those hands back to center. We're going to take the soles of our feet in to butterfly pose. And either here you can bounce your knees, or if you'd like to lean forward and use your elbows to push your knees into the mat, you're welcome to. Taking a nice deep breath. Seeing if you can lean into this pose just a little further. And then releasing that, kind of rounding yourself up. We're going to take our hands to the outside of our knees and bring those knees together. We're going to sweep our feet to the side and then come up onto all fours. So here we're going to start with our cat-cows. So all of these poses in this flow should feel really familiar. If you've done practice with us over the last couple of years. We're going to drop our bellies down, allow our tailbones to come up, allow the crown of our head to come up as we inhale the cow. And then we're going to exhale, tuck the tailbone, allow the arch to come through the spine, and then tucking the chin down to your chest. And then again, following your breath, you're going to inhale as you drop your belly. And then you're going to exhale as you arch your back up. And you're just going to go at your own pace. Recognizing that your pace is not the pace of some of the folks around you. That's okay. Oftentimes, one of our kind of ingrained thought patterns is this comparison piece. And so we're looking at the people around us going, am I doing this right? Is this the way I'm supposed to go? Or am I better or worse than the people around me? So the encouragement for today is to kind of get off of that comparison track and to go ahead and get on a new path, a new neural pathway that says it's okay to be me. So go ahead and tuck that tailbone. Coming back to neutral. We're going to go ahead and start to shift our weight to the left leg and the right hand. And we're going to inhale the other leg and arm up into the flat back pose. Keeping our hips square to the mat. Really extending those limbs out, drawing the core in. Now we're going to go ahead and release that down. If you need to kind of shake out that arm, or if you need to come up onto your fists to help protect your wrists, you're welcome to do that as well. We're going to shift to the other side. So we're shifting our weight to the right knee and the left hand. Inhaling the opposite arm and leg up. And taking some nice deep breaths. Really reaching those toes to one wall, the fingertips toward the opposite wall. And then releasing all of that down to the mat. We're going to bring our toes together. We're going to go ahead and take our knees as wide as the mat and then sit back on top of our heels to stretch forward for child's pose. And as always, if that feels too intense for your head, if you have sinus issues or allergies or something that you're struggling with, you can always make a couple of fists on top of each other and then rest your head on top of your fists to create a little bit of space for yourself. But taking a few deep breaths here, we're thinking about those neurological pathways that are sometimes so ingrained in us. And thinking about how if we want to jump to a new pathway, what does that take? Sometimes it takes determination. Sometimes it takes empathy for ourselves. Sometimes it takes recognizing that the current pathway is not working for us. Sometimes it takes gaining a new skill. So go ahead and start to bring yourself back up onto all fours. I told you we're going to do some of these kind of familiar patterns, and then we're going to do some little alternate patterns. Again, demonstrating jumping from those kind of ingrained patterns of thought in our brains to some of those new ones that we'd like to try out. And so here, we're going to go ahead and move our hands forward just slightly, and we're going to come into a modified plank, and then we're going to come back and tuck our toes, walking our hands back, coming into bear pose. And we're going to rock back and forth between those two poses. So we're doing plank as we come forward, dropping your hips, making sure that those wrists are still underneath those shoulders. And then tucking the toes, walking the hands back, pressing the hands and the mat away from us, lifting our knees about 3 inches off the mat, and then resting those knees and feet back down. Just going at your own pace, inhaling as you come into modified plank, and then exhaling as you come into bear pose. Again, following your own breath. If you need to take several breaths to do this kind of little sequence here, feel free to do that. There's not a right or wrong. There's just listening to your body. If it gets to where your body is tired out, you need to rest, always feel free to come back into child's pose. Maybe one more of those. And then returning to all fours. Again, feel free to come up onto those fists if you need to protect your wrists. Taking a nice deep breath. Okay. So before that was our alternate poses for cat-cow today. And then now we're going to move into our alternate poses for the tabletop position that we just did, for the extended table position that we just did. So we're going to take our weight, shift it to the left knee, draw that right foot up behind us. So again, your hips are square to the mat. Your weight is evenly distributed between your hands and that other knee. You can put your toe if you'd like here. We're going to start to walk our hands forward, and then we're going to tip ourselves down at an angle toward the mat, and then back up for dancing cat pose. So then we're going to release that knee down to the mat, switching sides. So we're shifting our weight to the right foot this time, bringing the left leg up behind us, walking our hands forward slightly, and then tipping ourselves down at an angle, and pushing ourselves back up. Again, coming back to all fours. Let's try that a couple more times if you can. Again, if it doesn't feel good or if your arms feel like they need a break, come down to child's pose. Stretching out those arms if you need to. Continuing to breathe. Walking those hands forward, taking down at an angle, pushing the floor away, walking those hands back, releasing that down. Go ahead and take your toes together, knees as wide as the mat, and then stretch back into child's pose. The other part of today's meditation is that creating new neural pathways is really hard sometimes. And so we'll feel that in our bodies as we do some of these alternate poses, alternate sequences, that our body may want to jump back to that old pattern or the old way of doing things. And it can be really challenging to continue to try to stay on that new path. We can have some grace for ourselves as we try it, knowing that we will make mistakes and that's okay. And also just resting in the fact that we're trying. And that is an achievement in and of itself. When you're ready, go ahead and pull yourself back up to all fours. We're going to tuck our toes and walk our hands back towards our knees, shifting our weight onto the balls of our feet. Pause it here in a low squat at the back of our mat for a moment. Feeling a stretch on our Achilles and also up into our calf muscles. When you're ready, you can go ahead and start to lift those hips and set the heels down. You can keep a little bend in your knees here if you need to. Again, just listening to your body, not judging it, not saying this is good or bad, but just noticing what is. And if you'd like to find a little bit of movement here, you can start to bend one knee at a time, kind of shifting your weight from one side to the other. Exploring this pose a little deeper. Continuing to breathe. Coming back to center, we're going to bend our knees. And then we're going to put our hands on our knees. And very slowly round ourselves up. Our head should be the last thing that comes up. Allowing all that blood flow to kind of even out in our bodies. And then turning your palms open to the front. We're going to think about standing nice and tall in mountain pose. So making sure that our feet are hip width apart. If you like to rock back and forth across your feet, you're welcome to do that until you find a spot that's comfortable for your feet. And just allow those toes to kind of settle down and float down to the mat. And then I'm going to encourage you to bend your knees slightly here. You can feel your muscles engage in your thighs here and on the sides of your hips here as well. And I'm going to encourage you to think about pressing your feet into the mat as you straighten your legs. What that's going to do is actually engage all of those different muscle groups all the way around your legs. And I'm going to encourage you to draw your belly button in toward your spine. Soften those hips down, soften the tailbone down. So your core is engaged. Your chest is open. Your shoulders are down. Your ears are over top of your shoulders. The crown of your head is reaching up toward the ceiling. And you're taking a few deep breaths as you continue to engage in this very still but very active position. then when you're ready, we're going to think about and go ahead and inhale our arms up overhead. Bringing our palms together, you can either interlace your fingers or you can grab onto one wrist. And we're going to lean off to one side, opening up one side body and really contracting in through the opposite side. Again, thinking about our alignment, so we're not bending forward here and jutting out our hips back. We're just leaning straight off to the side if you can. If that means that you need to not go so deeply, then feel free to do that. Then release both arms all the way down. Again, returning to mountain. So think about all the different little pieces that we just put into place with our bodies. Think about actively engaging all those different muscle groups. Elongating your spine. Again, taking some really deep breaths here. This is another example of sometimes the process that we go through in order to change tracks from one neural pathway to another pathway. Is that sometimes it looks on the surface like we're not doing anything, but inside there is all of this activity going on. So when you're ready, go ahead and inhale both arms up. And then taking a hold of one wrist or interlacing your fingers, go ahead and tip off to the other side. And opening up that chest. Stretching out the side body, contracting in through the opposite side. Again, coming up a little bit if you need to. One more deep breath here. And then go ahead and release all of that down to the mat. We're going to go ahead and step forward with our left foot first. We're going to come into a crescent lunge. So our knee is directly over top of our ankle. The ball of our foot is planted in the back of the mat here. So our heel is directly over top of the ball of the foot. So we're not sinking back into that heel, but there's a bit of tension in that foot. And once our low body is set, we can go ahead and inhale, arms up. Thinking about relaxing those shoulders down. Thinking about straightening that back leg. You'll feel a deeper stretch on the front side of that right hip flexor. And here, we're going to go ahead and take our arms down to the mat as we lean forward, kind of bowing down to the front. You're going to really feel this in the front side of your left thigh, excuse me. And then when you're ready on your next inhale, go ahead and come back up. And on your next exhale, go ahead and lean forward again, bowing down. Opening up those hands toward the earth. Inhaling back up. And then exhaling one more time, all the way down. And inhaling back up. We're going to go ahead and step that back leg forward. And then release those arms down to either side. Come to the front of the mat. Very good. Balance, yes. It can be a challenge for sure. All right, this time we're going to step back with the left leg. So again, we're coming into our crescent lunge on the other side. So again, making sure that the bottom body is set before we raise those arms up. Making sure that our foundation is ready for us. And then when you're ready, go ahead and exhale as you lean forward. Bring those arms open down to the earth. Inhaling as you bring those arms up. And going at your own pace, exhaling down, leaning forward, inhaling up. One more time, exhaling down. And then inhaling up. And then stepping that back leg forward. And release those arms all the way down. Get a nice deep breath. So crescent lunge is really familiar to us, but then when we add in the bow, it becomes kind of unfamiliar to us. And so again, we're challenging those set pathways in our brains today. Yeah, taking some deep breaths here and mountain pose. So this time we're going to step back with our right foot. We're going to turn our foot perpendicular. I was realizing I'm not quite perpendicular there. Turning our foot perpendicular to the front foot. We're going to bring both arms up into warrior two pose. Making sure that your arms are parallel to the floor if you can. Checking in with your wrists so they're not hanging down or there's not extra tension in them. We're in a nice neutral position here. Taking a nice deep breath. We're going to go ahead and bend the elbows. We're going to tip down toward that front leg. We're going to come back up and then open up those arms. And then we're just going to do that at your own pace. So bring the arms in, tipping down, really using your oblique muscles here to help yourself come back up and then out to the side. Again, going at your own pace. Inhaling back up and then exhaling down. Doing maybe 5 or 6 of these. Last one. Go ahead and come up. You're going to drop your arms. You're going to step that back leg forward. Coming into mountain pose again at the front of your mat. We're going to do a little stretch for our trapezius muscles here. So we're going to take a gentle fist in the right hand and place it in the small of the back. Tip the left ear toward the left shoulder. And if you like, you can gently press the left hand on the outside of your head here to deepen the stretch. And releasing that all down, coming back to mountain. And then thinking about standing nice and tall. You're actively pushing your feet into the floor. You're actively reaching the crown of your head up toward the ceiling. And then when you're ready, we're going to step back with that left leg this time, coming into warrior two on the other side, which I'm going to turn around to face you all. So again, our feet are perpendicular to each other. Once we have those feet set, we're going to lift our arms. Thinking about your shoulders being directly stacked over top of your hips. Opening up your chest. Taking a deep breath. Drawing that belly button in towards your spine if you can. Softening that tailbone down. And then when you're ready, we're going to bend the hands in towards our chest. We're going to dip down, touching the front elbow to the front knee. And then we're going to use those obliques to bring ourselves back up. Again, inhaling and then exhaling as we dip down. Inhaling as we come up. Going at your own pace here. Continuing to breathe. Continuing to press those feet into the mat. Stabilize our bodies. Maybe doing one more of those if you can. And then dropping those arms down. We're going to step that back leg towards the front. Again, coming into mountain pose. Again, we're going to do that gentle trapezius stretch. So taking our left hand, making a gentle fist, placing it in the small of our back, and then tipping our right ear toward our right shoulder. And again, if you would like, you can take that right hand to the outside edge of your head, gently deepening the stretch. Continuing to breathe as you do so. The other elements that I'll mention as we try to create new pathways in our brains or try new modes of thinking on is that we can be really judgmental of ourselves. So taking time to be gentle in posture toward yourself is really important in that process. Go ahead and release that. Coming back into the toes. Soften the shoulders down. Really to your core. Go ahead and inhale both arms back overhead. Palms together, exhale all the way forward. Nice and slow. Coming into forward fold. We're going to go ahead and step back with that right foot. Coming into a low lunge. So again, framing your foot with your hands here. Straightening that back leg. When you're ready, we're going to step that back leg in just slightly. And we're going to straighten the front leg, coming into pyramid, or into triangle pose, excuse me. And if this is too deep of a stretch, always feel free to put your hands on your chin or on your legs somewhere for support instead of using the floor. When you're ready, you're going to bend that front knee, step back with that back foot back into our runner's lunge. And if you can, we're going to take that back leg and step all the way to the front. And we're going to come into a low squat at the front of the mat. So again, getting a nice stretch on your Achilles and on your calf muscles here. And then lifting those hips, setting the heels down, and coming back into forward fold. So here we're going to take that left foot back, stepping into our runner's lunge on the other side. Taking some deep breaths. And then stepping that back leg in just a little bit, straightening that front leg, coming into triangle pose on the other side. Taking one more deep breath. And then bending that front knee and stepping back with that back leg back into our runner's lunge. Continuing to straighten that back leg as we breathe deeply. And then go ahead and bend it slightly. We're going to step forward with that back foot, coming into a low squat at the front of the mat. So a nice deep breath. And then setting those heels down, lifting the hips up, coming into forward fold. This time we're going to squat down, but we're going to come into a seated position. So however you want to get there is just fine. We're going to lean onto our side here. We're going to come down onto our elbow, leaving our hand out, kind of fanning out our fingers for a little bit of stability here. We're going to come into a side plank. And so you have several options here. You can either, you can either set this top leg straight out. You're going to kind of press into the outer edge of that foot. You're going to come up onto the knee underneath like this, for side plank here. If that feels like too much, you can always just bring your foot out and kind of actively engage your core here as your hip rests on the mat. If you want a little bit more today, you can take both feet straight out to the side. That's fine too. So again, find what works for your body today. We're going to hold this for about 3 deep breaths. You might see your body shaking. I know mine is. And then resting that down. We're going to swing those legs around front. And we're going to come into one leg in front, one leg behind, hands on the mat, folding forward over top of that back body. When you're ready, you can walk your hands back to center. Switch whichever leg is in front. Hands on the mat, and then walking those hands forward again. Again, checking in with your body. What sensations are you feeling? How can you adjust it to make it a little bit more okay for yourself? Where are you at emotionally today? Do you need more rest and compassion for yourself? Or do you have a little extra energy and you need more challenge and kind of adventure today? Just giving yourself space for anything that may be. When you're ready, you can walk your hands back to center. We're switching sides. So coming down to the other side, onto our elbow, again, fanning out those fingers so that way they are helping us with our support. And either we're stretching out that top leg, coming up onto the bottom knee here for support, or you're resting your hip down and engaging your core, or you have both legs straight out, coming into a full side plank. And holding this for 3 deep breaths if you can. I'm having trouble keeping my balance today. Almost there. One more breath. And then go ahead and rest that down. Swinging those legs around front. Whew. We're going to go ahead and take one leg in front of the other. Again, hands on the mat, stretching forward. bring those hands back to center, switching whichever leg is in front there. Sitting nice and tall first, and then placing your hands on the mat, and then walking those hands forward. And then go ahead and walk those hands back to center. We're going back to that side body. And here, again, we have a couple of options. We're going to lengthen that top leg, bending that bottom leg. We're going to reach overhead with our right arm, and we're going to draw our elbow to our knee above our body. It looks like this. And then we're coming down. So we're kind of doing like a side crunch almost. We're still exercising those oblique muscles. Just doing it in a different way. Doing maybe 10 or 12 of these, depending on, again, what is comfortable for you today. Really stretching the foot and the hands away from each other when you reach out. And then crunching it through that side body. And then go ahead and release that down to the mat. We're rolling onto our tummies here. We're doing a reverse banana pose. So we've done banana pose before, where we are stretched out on our mat. We're taking our hands to one corner and our feet to the opposite corner. Today we're just doing it while we're face down. So if you can, think about the side that we just used. For me, it was the right side. So you want to get really big on the right side, or whichever side you use. Making your body into kind of a banana shape. Take one more deep breath here. And coming back to center, we're going to take our hands underneath our shoulders, push ourselves up, and we're going to switch to the other side. Whichever side you didn't do yet, it's my left side. So I got the left leg out long, got my right elbow down for support. Checking your shoulder, that you're not leaning into that shoulder, but that that's helping to support you. And then reaching up and over your head, go ahead and start to bring your knee and your elbow together, reaching out long, and then coming back together. Thinking about tensing through your oblique muscles, so that side of your core here. Again, going at your own pace. Doing maybe 10 or 12 of these if you can. Continuing to breathe as you do so. And then when you're ready, go ahead and really stretch out and then roll onto your tummy. This time we're extending those arms out in front of us, really reaching back with the toes, moving those hands to one corner, and the toes to the opposite corner. Taking some deep breaths. Back to center, and go ahead and turn our heads to one side. Allow our arms to come down alongside our bodies. As we take a few just recovery recovery breaths. Really relaxing any tension you feel in your body. Taking a moment to reaffirm the work that you've done today. And then when you're ready, you can start to bring your hands underneath your shoulders, pushing yourself up onto all fours, tucking the toes. Go ahead and push yourself up onto the balls of your feet again. And then go ahead and lift those hips, rolling very slowly up into a standing position. Again, head should be relaxed when it comes up. We are going to move into our balancing postures. So if you need to move toward the wall, or if you need to move toward a chair, or toward this table up here with me to have a little extra balance, feel free to do that. There we go. Okay, we're going to move into dancer pose. So we're going to start in our normal, very good, very solid mountain pose. We're going to shift our weight to our right foot today, and then draw the left foot up behind us. If this is enough, you are welcome to stay here. If you'd like an alternate dancer pose, you don't have to actually put the top of your foot into the palm of your hand. You can just stay here and then start to lean forward into dancer pose when we're ready for that. If you are doing the other version of dancer pose, you're going to take the top of that foot, press it into the palm of that left hand. And then as you press into it, you're going to lean forward, bringing your opposite arm out for balance. Again, if you are doing the other version, it's here. You're coming out as far as you can. So you're going to lean back and step out and shake out that other foot. Turn around to the other side, starting once again in mountain pose. Shifting our weight to the left foot this time. We're going to draw that right foot up. And then either you're staying here and then moving into dancer pose, or you can take the top of that foot, place it in the right palm of your hand, start to press that palm into your hand as you lean forward, using the opposite arm for balance, or using your chair or your table for balance if you need it, or the wall. And again, the alternate version here looks like this. And coming up out of that pose, stepping out, shaking out those legs. Woo. Good. We've reached our cool down section, so we're going to come back down to the mat. We're going to start with our soles of our feet together for butterfly pose. So again, here you can bounce your knees, or you can lean forward and use your elbows to help press your knees toward the mat. If you don't want to use your elbows, you can think about engaging your glutes. Pull those knees down toward the mat for a stretching and strengthening effect. Taking some nice deep breaths. When you're ready, we're going to start to scooch those feet away from our bodies, kind of making more of a diamond shape with our legs, and then lean forward. And then from here, if you would like to try turtle pose, you're welcome to. So for turtle pose, you're gonna slide your arms underneath your legs. And my daughter can do this like so well. It takes me a little bit to get into it. So you slide your arms underneath your legs, kind of creating like a little shell with your head and your back. This is a really great stretch for your low back and mid back space. And coming up, kind of unfolding out of that, we're going to take our legs wide again for seated open A, like we started earlier this morning. Taking our hands to the mat, we're going to lean forward. Again, if you need to find a little bit of movement, feel free to do that. You need to rock from side to side, or sway side to side, or go, front to back. Find what's comfortable for you. For a little dynamic stretch here. Think about all of the different ways that we used our bodies in the last hour. Poses that felt maybe a little bit uncomfortable. We made a new pathway today. We made a new mind-body connection. All right, when you're ready, go ahead and come back to center. We're going to sweep those legs off to one side, and we're going to roll ourselves down to the mat. Drawing our knees into our chest. Go ahead and rock back and forth across that low back if that's comfortable for you. Coming back to center, I'm going to invite you to take your feet down to the mat. And then from here, you can choose your final relaxation position. So if this is comfortable for you, feel free to stay here. If you want to heel toe your feet out as wide as the mat and allow your knees to fall in and rest on each other, if that's comfortable, feel free to do that. If you want to extend your legs all the way down to the mat, or if you want to bring your feet together and then allow your knees to fall open toward the mat before reclining down to angle, feel free to choose what would be most restful for you as we close our time together. When you're ready, you can start to wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Start to bring your awareness back to this moment. Eventually roll it to one side. And then gently pushing yourself up into a seated position. I'm going to invite you to take your hands to your heart center in some form or fashion. Whichever hand pose you want to use, you're welcome to. And let me pray for us as we close. God, today we come to you and we thank you for the possibility of change. Lord, so often we see change as an interruption or as a disturbance or an intrusion in our lives. God, you've shown us that change can actually be a really good thing too. Lord, we know that change is also very difficult. So Lord, as we try to change our minds, as we try to make those new neural pathways in our brains, our good brains that you've given us, God, would you allow us to have grace for ourselves and to receive your grace for our lives in the midst of that. God, would you remind us that it's enough because we're trying. And would you be with us every step of the way. We love you and to hear you pray. Amen.
We love you.